pick up his second win of 2023, we return to action for the Italian Grand Prix here at the Mugello circuit, one of the finest on the calendar. If Austria has the sound of music, then the Tuscan hills here simply have the sound of MotoGP. Jack Appleyard and Simon Crayford are here to preview what we can expect over the weekend here in Mugello as MotoGP gets back up and running in 2023. And Simon, after those weeks off of us resting and relaxing, I forgot half of what happened in Le Mans. What a race it was. In the end, Marco Bezzecchi taking victory, which means he comes here now just 1 point adrift of his good friend and now rival Pecco Bagnaia at the top of the championship. But Bagnaia is the man we're going to start with as the World Championship leader and the world champion as well. It was yet another setback for him in Le Mans after that big controversial incident with Maverick Viñales. Before we look forward to this weekend and the after effects of that crash, how do you reflect on what we saw there in Le Mans, Simon?
Well, the race everybody saw was spectacular. I've got to say I loved it. We got ripped off as viewers only in that the boys that could really take it to Bezzecchi, I believe, had that impact together and both went down, and as in Bagnaia and I'm really happy to say Maverick Viñales, who I think is the big story, is for me the big takeaway from Le Mans, here it is how hungry, how fast, how determined to win Maverick Viñales looked. To me, I think everyone should have alarm bells going, because I think it's the start of his run. I really do. And I hope it's true, because we need another man fighting for the wins, you know. And just to talk through what happened there, I said at the time, and I'm glad Race Direction agreed that it was a racing incident. Look, if you had to boil it down, I watched it again on Monday and thought over it. If you had to boil it down, it's okay, it's roughly 60-40, meaning it's less Maverick's fault than Pecco's, because Maverick's in front. But otherwise it was just two guys doing two different, they ended up on the same spot of the track. Really sad, because like I said, I believe those two were the ones that could take it to Bez, and we could have seen a proper fight for the win.
As a result of that, Pecco Bagnaia picking up an injury to his left foot at the pre-event in Milan yesterday. He was using a crutch. You'll see in the press conference at the top of the hour in about 20 minutes' time, again, he'll be using that crutch to get around. He has passed his medical check, though, so he will be participating this weekend. I guess it's impossible to say at this point how much, if at all, a hindrance that's going to be. But given the way his championship has gone so far, the crashes, the much talked about crashes in Argentina and America, to then have another zero, it just feels like he's incapable of getting any momentum together at the moment.
I agree with you, and I find it strange that I still don't doubt Pecco, you know?
So he's still leading the championship despite all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's like nobody wants to, you know, because it's constantly people losing points. But like I said, I still don't doubt him. I think there's been too many mistakes, but I really think he's got the whole package, meaning he's the best man at the moment on it. You know, he has been for a while on a Ducati. The Ducati's the best bike. He turns things around when they're not going well. Yes, he's had a few fallen races, but he'll come into a weekend not looking good and turn it around and end up fighting for the win. And I've got to say, I still believe in him.
Victorious, of course, this time last year here at the Mugello circuit, the first time he was able to stand on the top step at his home Grand Prix. For me, and I'd love to know your thoughts, is he the favourite coming into this weekend? Tough to look past.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's things, alarm bells for me for him, like Bez, how good Bez and Luca, for example, were here last year. And I think, especially Bez, he's taken another step on. He's a little guy, can get tucked into that fairing on a long straight, knows the track as well as anyone, you know, because even though he's younger, he's spent a lot of years here. And I would like to, the overall, I think the Aprilia and Maverick are coming. I really do, and I think there's going to be tracks that suit them, and they're going to be really dangerous. And the KTM has taken such a step forward, and believe it's also got the speed at this big long straight to cope with the Ducati. The boys riding the KTMs are super hungry, and I think they're not going to give it up easy. So my answer is Bagnaia is going to have a fight on his hands, I believe. And I've got to say, last year, Fabio, I didn't think he'd be able to do anything on the Yamaha here, and he did. So we can't write Fabio off yet, but it's looking really tough for that Yamaha to do something at any track.
Absolutely. The French Grand Prix, he gave it his absolute maximum in front of that record home crowd, but unfortunately, due to a couple of issues, not arm pump, he said the treatment that he had prior to the race that normally he does to make sure he's loose and as nimble as possible was a little bit more aggressive than normal, which led to some issues during the race. So we'll see what Fabio is capable of this weekend. But we've talked about Marco Bezzecchi, the man second in the World Championship at the moment. Of course, our victor last time out as well. You talk about people coming into their home Grand Prix brimmed full of confidence. Well, Marco Bezzecchi is top of that list. Could not be going any better for him at the moment. And you still feel like there's an air around him where he has nothing to lose.
Yeah, you're right. The pressure's not loaded on his shoulders like
Pecco.
Yes, like
just
Pecco.
Yet. I'm sure as we go through the year, that may well change.
Yeah. But in general, he's just enjoying he's got the machine, and if he does the job, which he keeps doing, he's got a year more experience. But because he does the job, we see the result, which not every rider on every manufacturer can say that. So, Bez is a great little rider, improving all the time, and he's got the machine to show his potential. One
of his standout performances of his rookie campaign last year as well wasn't the podium in Assen or the near podium in Australia, but qualified on the front row and was able to compete with those guys at the sharp end right up until the last laps as well. So he'll have all of the belief that he can be competitive this year.
Totally agree. We just saw a couple of run-ins with...
Oh dear, someone just gate crashing us there and then nearly falling over as well.
We had a couple of run-ins we saw with Mark there, and I've got to mention Mark coming into this race because he's not going to lie down, is he? He's going to keep trying like he did in Le Mans.
Well, Mark is a man that I want to go on to next. It was his comeback race at the French Grand Prix. On the Thursday ahead of it, he says, I'm going to take my time, find my feet again, fed my way back in. And he lied to us, Simon. I have to be straight up. We all knew that wasn't going to be the case, and it wasn't the case.
Only because that's, I think it's just taking pressure off himself, saying those things rather than lying to us, It's just taking pressure off. But Mark is going to throw everything at it every time, and he always astounds me, even with months off recovering from injury. He just comes back and does something amazing. He is the man, I've got to say. Him and Fabio doesn't matter what they do, you're not going to see the full potential because they don't have the machine at the moment. And as time passes and I dig more, I love the technical side, I'm convinced it's Honda's engine that is giving the problems. So no matter what chassis they throw at it, I think it's engine and electronics, and they're really struggling with drive grip. But Mark just keeps throwing 100% at it, and if they can improve that bike, he's going to be fighting for the win again.
Is this a place that will hide those deficiencies a little bit more or highlight them?
I don't think so. I mean, what we saw in Le Mans is, amazing to me. He's fighting very hard. We're going to see him, like you've touched on before, he can do some magic over one lap for qualifying in that, but during a race to expect a rider, like I've always said about Fabio, to keep doing it over race distance, race after race, is very, very hard, and it's too easy to do that, So I think Le Mans is kind of where you would expect him to be again here, fighting in the race. And it's going to take places like probably Sachsenring where he's just something special that he'll be able to do his extra magic. But the rest of the tracks around the fourth is as much as you can. That's stunning to be able to do that.
When you mentioned Sachsenring, I was about to say he may well have one eye on that German Grand Prix in just a week's time, and then I remembered it's Marc Marquez, and he absolutely won't be thinking about Sachsenring at all this weekend. He'll be 100% all in as usual here in Italy. Of course, has had great success here in the past, nipped to the post by Jorge Lorenzo in that magical battle, but has been victorious here as well, and you would have to say if the chips fall in his favour, potentially in the sprint race, it's going to be more likely over that shorter distance, but Mark is another name that we simply cannot discount.
Yes, I mean, as you can tell from what I'm saying, I don't expect him to be able to fight for the win, but fight for the podium, guarantee he's going to try.
Good news as well for Italian fans, Ducati fans, and for the likes of Davide Tardozzi, Gigi Dell'Igna and Paolo Ciabatti, because the factory Ducati squad is back to its full factory fitness now, with Enea Bastianini rejoining the championship. Tried to rejoin the championship in Jerez, but that shoulder injury meant that he had to pull out on Saturday morning. It looks as though, given the 3 weeks that we've had, and of course missing the French Grand Prix as well, that Enea is well and truly, not 100%, but as close as can be at the moment. I guess for him, round 6 of the championship is well out of the question. So coming back now, what is his motivation? What is his target for the upcoming 15 rounds?
Okay, the things that I see is he's going to be a little bit rusty. He's had a long time off, but he's a proper fighter. Like, for example, Mark, you don't expect he's going to need long to knock the rust off and fight. But it does take a day or two to get back in the rhythm. And speaking of rhythm, here you have a lot of second gear and even a third gear chicane, change of direction, actually 2 of those as well. So what I'm saying is it's very physical. You know, these bikes with all the aero and stuff, to throw them from side to side repeatedly over race distance, especially the long race on Sunday, the race on Sunday, it's not going to be easy. And if he's got any niggles, it's going to wear him down. For example, I've seen riders in Parc Fermé, so on the podium, sitting on the ground going, at the end of the race in Mugello, it's very physical, so it's going to be hard for him. But he's got the right machine. If he can battle on, and I think he's a fighter, I think we all think that, there's no reason why he can't get to the podium.
Of course, there'll be a lot of eyes on him come tomorrow morning at the conclusion of practice 1, just to see how he is feeling, what the facial expressions are. But the pre-event in Milan yesterday, when he was on stage speaking to Guido Meda of Sky Sports Italy and to all the fans there, he had a full motion of movement. It was like a tennis player doing serves, showing off that now the shoulder is much, much better, which is great news indeed. We've mentioned Aprilia and Maverick Viñales, and that's where we want to touch on next, because you speak about the hunger that Viñales showed in Le Mans, and that's a topic we've spoken about on a couple of occasions previously, where you felt that maybe that wasn't there anymore. So how surprised and how pleased were you to see that Maverick Viñales?
I'm very happy. That's why I'm so excited, and it's why I think it's the story of Le Mans, because from here we're watching.
This is Alex Marquez just bumping Brad Binder wide on the opening lap.
Brad Binder
spoke about penalties just very quickly. 3-place grid penalty here in Italy for Alex Marquez as a result of that one.
Yes. The thing I agree about that, and pretty much everything the stewards did at Le Mans, it was good. It was, I can understand that what Alex Marquez did to bump Brad, and was it Jorge wide?
Yep.
No, or Zarco.
Zarco
wide. It wasn't penalisable normally, but it's adding up. You know, he's done some things from the very first sprint race, you know, and they've kind of gone, it's enough. That's what I understand, and I agree. As much as I think Alex is a great rider, clever guy, but it's time to say, to draw the line, you know, it's only fair on the other riders. The other sad thing for us watching Le Mans was Brad getting bumped wide. He had the potential to go to the podium. He should have been on it if everything went right, and you know what I mean. It didn't, but he had the speed. To get back to what we were talking about, Maverick, I'm so happy, like I've said repeatedly, that we're seeing Maverick fight for what he can, you know what I mean? That's what I saw, because he's brilliant fast, wonderful to watch on the bike, and he has the bike that can do it. And I just keep getting disappointed, and it's been over a year of being disappointed. So I get tired of this, and what I saw in Le Mans is what I want to see. And Maverick, to be fair to him, he has had some problems. I think we haven't heard about reliability-wise this year. I think there's been a couple of niggles in that have let him
qualifying in Le Mans. That obviously
was the clear one. You're right, but I think there's more than that, so we can't put it all on Maverick's shoulders. But all I care about now is we saw the Maverick I want to see. You know, I saw the Maverick I want to see at Le Mans. I believe we're going to see it more from here on in. I really do.
In terms of Aprilia, the storyline for the opening quarter of the season has been very competitive on a Friday, failed to really take the chances in qualifying, and then just haven't had the package to be able to make their way through the race on Sunday. But
not many have, yeah.
Maverick was able to pass, and looked aggressive.
Yeah.
So is that arguably down to Maverick understanding the bike better? Have they made a change to allow that? What do you think that change came from? Or was it just Maverick being a little bit more aggressive?
Well, obviously Maverick's got comfortable enough to be able to do his magic, you know. But the thing is, I saw it repeatedly, but it was, to me, sorry if I'm wrong, Mav, but there was a lack of hunger that I saw in races, you know, and also in qualifying, you know. Like, for example, it started to rain and Termas.
Yep.
And he was it Termas or sorry?
Termas, and then again
at Jerez. I believe it was Jerez that I'm remembering, because he ended up fifth, if I remember right, and he was the first guy on that wasn't on slicks. So he had the speed, but he didn't take the risk. And so what I'm saying, I think that we've seen the new Maverick, and he's coming.
More to come after our opening press conference as we chat about KTM's hopes this weekend, plus Pramac as well. Of course, a double podium for them last time out. Jorge Martin second, what a weekend it was for him, and Johan Zarco third. But it's time for our opening press conference ahead of this Oakley Italian Grand Prix. World champion Francesco Bagnaia, joined by Marco Bezzecchi, Marc Marquez and Aprilia's Maverick Viñales, hosted as always by our very own Matt Burt.